Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling Agina Cinema, Sir Alfred Hitchcock, the master of suspense.
Absolutely. And we've got a stack of sources here to really get into his world.
Right. Our mission is to sort of unpack his journey, over 6 decades, more than 50 films, how his life, his fears, his obsession with control, how all that really fed into his work.
It's fascinating because looking at these sources, you see this tight link, his incredible precision on set. It feels like it came directly from managing these really deep personal anxieties.
That's a great way to put it. Trauma management on screen.
The too much, yeah.
And to show just how personal this gets, the sources have this amazing, almost, well, frankly, bizarre detail about him on set.
Oh, you mean the tram routes?
Exactly. Get this.
Yeah.
When the clapperboard went up, scene 23, take 3, Hitchcock would apparently whisper London tram routes he'd memorized as a kid.
Yeah, like 23 was Woodford, 3 was Hampstead. It's this tiny thing, but it says so much. This obsessive organization, but rooted in something really personal, maybe even comforting for him.
It totally sets up that core idea, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Personal fear channeled through absolute control. And he became this huge public figure, too, not just a director.
Yeah.
The silhouette, the cameos.
As famous as his actors.
Yeah.
But yeah, to grasp the control, you really have to start with the fear, the early stuff.
Okay, let's go there. Leytonstone,
Mm-hmm.
son of a greengrocer, poulterer. Sounds like a disciplined household.
Very much so, according to the sources. And then there's that famous story, the one he told again and again. Happened when he was just 5.
The police station incident, right?
That's the one. His dad sends him down to the local police station holding a note. The officer reads it, takes him, and locks him in a cell. Just for a few minutes.
Wow. At 5 years old.
Yeah. Hitchcock said it gave him this lifelong phobia. He was, and this is his quote, scared stiff of anything to do with the law. Couldn't even bring himself to drive because he was terrified of getting a ticket.
So that experience instills the fear, but then his education gives him the tools to manage it, or maybe weaponize it.
That seems to be the shape of it. He went to St. Ignatius College, run by Jesuits. They were known for being incredibly systematic, rigorous.
And he credited them, didn't he?
He did. So they taught him organization, control, and analysis. That's perfectly right. He loved maps, timetables too, anything systematic.
It's like a straight line from that cell to, one of his biggest themes.
Yeah.
The innocent man, wrongly accused, shows up in, 11 of his films?
At least 11, yeah. But film wasn't the immediate path. He started out differently.
Right, technical clerk.
Yep, trained in technical drawing, then worked as a copywriter for Henley Telegraph and Cable Company, drew graphics for ads.
Mm-hmm.
He actually thought that work, the visual side of advertising, was his first step towards cinema.
Makes sense. And that skill eventually got him into the film industry proper.
By 1919, yeah, designing title cards for famous players Lasky. But the real artistic spark, you could say, came from Europe.
German Expressionism.
Exactly. He went to Germany in 25, worked on a film called The Blackguard, and saw what filmmakers like F.W. Murnau were doing.
So for listeners maybe not familiar, what's the essence of Expressionism and why did it click with Hitchcock?
Well, basically, it's about using the external world, the sets, the lighting, the shadows, to reflect the internal state of the characters. Think, like, distorted perspectives, weird angles, lots of shadow play to create unease, terror.
Visual storytelling over dialogue.
Precisely. It really seemed to cement his idea that cinema should work on a visual, emotional level first. Mood over just, recording reality.
And he brings that sensibility back to the UK and pretty quickly makes a splash with The Lodger in 1927.
Yeah, The Lodger, a story of the London fog. That really put him on the map as a name director, but it also immediately highlighted this tension he'd grapple with.
The ending, right. He had a darker idea.
He did. He wanted the Lodger character to be, well, maybe guilty, or at least ambiguous. But the star was Ivor Novello, a huge matinee idol. And the studio insisted, the star had to be innocent.
So the commercial pressure actually pushed his creativity.
You could argue that, yeah. Because he couldn't rely on the plot twist, he had to use pure technique, camera angles, lighting, editing to make the audience feel suspicion and doubt, even when they technically knew the guy was innocent.
You had to generate the suspense visually.
Exactly. And he did it again just 2 years later, with sound this time. Blackmail, 1929. First British talkie.
And he didn't just use sound for dialogue.
No way! He immediately saw it as another tool for manipulation. There's that famous scene where a character is talking and Hitchcock makes the word knife just jump out over and over, amplifying the guilt and tension for the audience. It's brilliant.
Okay, so this period, He's defining his style, but also building the Hitchcock brand and inventing key tools. Let's talk about the MacGuffin.
Ah, the MacGuffin. Coined by his collaborator Angus MacPhail. It's such a clever, simple idea.
Explain it. It's the thing everyone's after.
Pretty much. The secret plans, the stolen diamonds, the microfilm, whatever kicks off the plot. But the key is, the MacGuffin itself doesn't really matter. It's ultimately insignificant to the audience, maybe even to the film's deeper themes.
So why use it all the time?
Because it's perfect misdirection. It gives the characters and us something concrete to focus on to create urgency. But the real tension, the stuff Hitchcock cared about, was usually psychological or sexual or interpersonal. The MacGuffin just gets the engine running.
Like the stolen plans in the 39 Steps from 1935.
Classic example.
Yeah.
And the 39 Steps also gave us the first real Hitchcock blonde archetype with Madeleine Carroll. Cool, elegant, intelligent.
Became a signature. Now, about that brand building. He started doing cameos really early.
First one was in The Lodger, just
Yeah.
sitting at a desk in a newsroom scene. But he actively cultivated this image, this persona, the controlled eccentric.
The pranks fit into this, don't they?
Oh, definitely. Like dyeing all the food blue for a dinner party because, he claimed, there weren't enough blue foods. It sounds bizarre, but it built this picture of someone slightly off-kilter but totally in command, a controlling artist.
He was quite explicit about the director's importance.
Very. He said something like, actors come and go, but the name of the director should stay clearly in the mind of the audience. He was selling himself as much as the film.
And it worked. David O. Selznick buys into this brand, brings him to Hollywood in 1939, 7-year contract.
Yeah.
But not the smoothest relationship.
Not initially, no. Selznick was, a powerful, hands-on producer. He liked having options in the edit room. Hitchcock didn't provide options.
That goddamn jigsaw cutting quote from Selznick, what did he mean?
It meant Hitchcock shot exactly what he intended to use. No extra coverage, no alternative reaction shots. He'd essentially pre-edited the film in his head and on paper, so when Selznick got the footage, there was often only one way to cut it together Hitchcock's way. It drove Selznick nuts because it limited his control as producer.
Huh. But the results? Their first film together, Rebecca, in 1940, wins Best Picture.
It did, though, tellingly, the Oscar statue went to Selznick, the producer. Hitchcock got the first of 5 Best Director nominations.
None of which he ever won. Incredible.
Yeah, quite something. But he didn't get less bold. I mean, you look at Notorious in 1946.
Uranium plot device, that got him into a bit of hot water, didn't it?
Just a bit. Get this. He makes uranium the MacGuffin. This is 1945, before the atomic bombs were dropped on Japan, before it was widely public knowledge, because he was asking technical questions about atomic materials for the script. The FBI apparently put him under surveillance for a while.
Wow. Selznick thought it was nonsense, right?
Called it science fiction, yeah. But Hitchcock was onto something. Ahead of the curve.
Talk about commitment to the brand, though.
Mm-hmm.
How about getting his cameo into Lifeboat? The whole film's set in, well, a lifeboat.
Oh, it's brilliant. One of his best cameos. See, at the time, he was on this major diet, lost a ton of weight, went from like 300 pounds down to 200. So, in the film, one of the characters finds an old newspaper in the boat. And in the newspaper, there's a before and after ad for a fictional weight loss product, the Vertigo Obesity Slayer. And the model in the ad is Hitchcock.
That's amazing. Using his own body transformation for the cameo.
Pure Hitchcock. And that kind of cleverness, plus his move into television, really blasted him into global celebrity status.
Alfred Hitchcock Presents. That show was huge.
Massive. From 1955 right through to 65, that iconic silhouette he drew himself, the dry, morbid humor in his introductions, everyone knew him.
And it was incredibly lucrative for him.
Oh, yeah. The sources say he made over $15 million just from Psycho, which he partly financed himself. And later, he cleverly swapped the rights to his TV show for like 150,000 shares in MCA, the studio's parent company. Made him a major shareholder. Very savvy.
And this TV fame happens right alongside probably his most intense, psychologically complex films. We have to talk Vertigo. 1958.
Vertigo is. It's something else. Obsession, control, constructing an identity. It wasn't maybe fully appreciated right away, but its reputation just grew and grew.
To the point where it topped the BFI poll in 2012.
Yeah.
Overtaking Citizen Kane.
Exactly. Named the greatest film ever made by that particular poll. It's extraordinary. And then right after comes Psycho, 1960.
His most profitable film, you said.
Yeah.
Made on a tighter budget.
Yeah, he used his TV crew, kept costs down, But the precision, I mean, the shower scene alone,
78 setups, 52 cuts for just that short sequence.
it just shows that meticulous planning again. Every single cut, every angle designed for maximum psychological impact. Pure visual storytelling.
Which brings us neatly to his core philosophy.
Yeah.
Pure cinema.
Right. His big thing was that film should tell its story visually, first and foremost. Dialogue should be secondary or even unnecessary if the visuals are strong enough. He was definitely influenced by things like Soviet montage theory.
Okay, montage theory gets thrown around. In simple terms, how did it influence him?
Well, the basic idea of montage is that meaning comes not just from the shot itself, but from how shots are cut together. The juxtaposition creates the effect. For Hitchcock, this just reinforced his method of planning everything. Visuals first.
He famously claimed all the fun was over once the script was done, right? Because he'd already seen the whole film.
He did say that. He'd visualized every shot, every cut. But this leads to an interesting point raised in some of the more recent scholarship.
The storyboarding myth.
Kind of. Hitchcock definitely cultivated this image of absolute rigid pre-planning. The storyboards were part of that legend, but sources suggest sometimes it was more flexible. That famous crop duster scene in North by Northwest. Apparently, the storyboards were made after filming, mainly for publicity.
Ah, so the image of control was sometimes part of the performance itself.
It seems likely, yeah. He was incredibly prepared, no doubt,
Ah.
but maybe not always as inflexible as the legend suggests. The reputation of control was crucial, though.
Okay, so beneath the technical mastery, the films keep circling back to these core anxieties. Let's tick off some recurring themes.
Well, the main goal was always, creating nightmares for the audience, maximize anxiety, maximize fear. Beyond the innocent man accused, you've got rampant voyeurism, Rear Window being the ultimate example. And the idea of the double, a character having a dark mirror image representing suppressed desires or evil.
And his depiction of women could be complicated, especially mothers.
Yeah, the sources point to a pattern of notorious monster mothers, particularly after his own mother passed away. Mrs. Bates in Psycho is the ultimate, terrifying, off-screen version of that. And marriage in his films, often pretty bleak, skeptical outlook.
Right. Now, we need to touch on his relationships with collaborators, starting with the actors and that infamous quote.
Actors should be treated like cattle.
Yeah, that one stuck.
He tried to walk it back a bit, didn't he? Sort of. He later joked, I said that I would never say such an unfeeling, rude thing about actors. What I probably said was that all actors should be treated like cattle. In a nice way, of course. I mean, the point was, he wanted them to hit their marks, say their lines, and trust his vision for the character's psychology, not bring too much of their own interpretation.
But despite that attitude, or maybe because of the results, he got incredible performances and had long collaborations.
Absolutely. Cary Grant, 4 films. James Stewart, 4 films. Grace Kelly, 3 huge ones. They clearly found something compelling in working with him, even if it was demanding.
And we absolutely have to mention his most important collaborator.
His wife, Alma Revel. Crucial. She was screenwriter and editor, worked on so many of his films, often without screen credit early on, co-wrote Suspicion, Shadow of Doubt.
He acknowledged her publicly later on, though.
He did. At his AFI Life Achievement Awards ceremony, he famously said, the Hitchcock touch had 4 hands and 2 were Alma's. She really was the quiet partner, the organizational force behind the scenes by many accounts.
Okay. But there's also a darker side to his on-set relationships that needs acknowledging. The Tippi Hedren situation.
Yes. During the filming of The Birds and then Marnie, sources, including Hedren herself, describe a really toxic environment. Obsessive behavior from Hitchcock, isolating her from others. It's a very troubling part of his history.
And it casts a shadow, particularly over a film like Marnie, doesn't it?
It really does. Marnie's reception was, and still is, complex. Some critics at the time hated it, called it his most disappointing, but later others hailed it as one of his greatest, precisely because it delves into such dark psychological territory, including implied sexual violence, which was apparently even more explicit in earlier script drafts. That context is now inseparable from the film.
It just highlights that duality again, doesn't it? The meticulous artist, the controlling genius, and this deeply troubling obsessive personality.
A very complicated legacy. Hugely influential, undeniably brilliant in many ways, but yeah, complex and sometimes disturbing.
So wrapping up his career, he finally gets the knighthood in 1979. Very late in life.
Just 4 months before he died, yeah.
And when asked why it took so long?
His perfect dry response was apparently, I suppose it was a matter of carelessness. Classic Hitchcock wit right to the end. His legacy is undeniable, though. 9 films in the U.S. National Film Registry, including Shadow of a Doubt, which he apparently considered his personal favorite.
So we started with the childhood fear, the Jesuit discipline teaching control.
And we've seen how he spun that personal vulnerability, that fear, into this incredibly controlled, universally recognized form of suspense cinema.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. If that Jesuit training gave him the tools for absolute control and that childhood trauma instilled absolute fear, how much were his signature techniques, the MacGuffin, the cameos, the meticulous planning, even the treatment of actors, how much were they really just psychological defense mechanisms, ways to keep his own inner chaos perfectly boxed up, managed, and safely projected onto the screen for the rest of us?
Was the master of suspense just mastering himself? Something to think about next time you're watching one of his films.